Hey, what's up everyone? Ragey Golden Eagle here, having way too much fun as always. And we're pretty much living the old Chinese curse because we're living in interesting times. At least when it comes to gender relations. It's interesting to be alive right now and observe the era of yes means yes, affirmative consent, Me Too, toxic masculinity, and other myths like the wage gap. All these things in one form or another have been building up over the past few years, or hell, decades even. And at least from the male perspective, everything we used to get out of relationships we've slowly had stripped away from us, and to replace that they've just been stacking on more sacrifices and risks. So creating this type of hostile environment, this headline should not surprise you. Millennials are turned off sex, study suggests, with 1 in 8 still virgins at 26. And the only surprise for me here is how low that number is. 1 in 8? I'm quite sure it would be higher than that. Actually, wait up, it probably is higher than that. I just bet most of them aren't honest about it because they don't want to be made fun of or something. But my so-called conspiracy theories aside, 1 in 8 is still pretty huge. So if you were paying attention at the beginning of this video, you know what I view as the main contributing factor to this. Let's see what they have to say and tell me if this sounds familiar to you. The sharp rise in the number of young people waiting longer to have sex may be because of a fear of intimacy, of course it is, and I bet it's because men are afraid of commitment too, right? So surprising that they don't want to commit to a raw deal that they don't gain any benefit from, isn't it? And the pressure of social media, according to analysts. Now, if nothing else, the pressure of social media is what leads people to claim they are not virgins. So your numbers may be a little bit higher than they actually are here. And yeah, sure enough, they apparently conducted interviews. Oh wow, this is just adding more and more credibility to my own theory here. This wasn't even anonymous surveys, this was face-to-face interviews. The interviews conducted in current year -2 discovered a rise in the number of millennials waiting longer to have sex compared to previous generations, where 1 in 20 reported still being virgins around the same age. Oh man, so it more than doubled, that's actually kind of funny. But still, as I was saying, if these were face-to-face interviews, then for men especially, they'd be a lot less likely to admit to being virgins. There's a lot of social pressure against being a virgin when it comes to guys. It's like literally the exact opposite for women. It's pretty funny when you think about it because there's no way this could work out. You can't have all guys just being studs and screwing everybody in sight, while at the same time all the girls are virgins. But that's a different problem for a different discussion. For now though, let's get back to the excuses. Susanna Absey, at least I think that's how it's pronounced, a psychoanalytic psychotherapist, what the fuck is that? Somebody in the comments section please tell me what that is, and if it's a legitimate profession. Anyway, at the Ballant Consultancy told the Sunday Times, millennials have been brought up in a culture of hypersexuality which has bred a fear of intimacy. Okay, that's possible, but what about what I said? What about a culture that's openly hostile towards men having any sort of healthy sexual attraction to women, and that's slowly stripping them of any benefits that come from associating with women and just stacking on more risks and more sacrifices to replace them? That might be a contributing factor, especially if you listen to all the complaining going on. Sure, on the male side, you do have a vocal incel community, but even they are just absolutely dwarfed by all the women out there that are claiming they can't find a good man. Oh, I'm good looking, I'm single, I'm willing, but I can't find a man. No man wants me. Why is that? Well, you scared them all off. Hate to break it to you. Looks like both sides are going to be virgins now, huh? But all those issues out of the way, it looks like at least one person involved with this study, or at least who was questioned about it and offering his opinions, had some of the same concerns I did for the fact that these were interviews, and for guys anyway, the topic of being a virgin can be kind of sticky. If those who refused to answer the question were also virgins, the figure rises to 1 in 6. According to Steve McKay, professor in social research at Lincoln University. So if this is true, then the number of virgins at this age is actually more than tripled over the past, 20 years? Oh, and we're not done yet. This next line, and the final one I'm going to be getting into, is probably the most interesting one in this whole article. The research also found that as young people get older, they are less likely to have sexual partners, with more than 90% of those who had lost their virginity having done so before 19 years old. Now, I'd be curious to see the actual numbers behind this, But just because 90% of the people who lost their virginity did so before they were 19, doesn't mean they didn't continue going on to have sex after that. But the way this was worded, it's kind of implied that, yeah, as they get older, they are less likely to have sexual partners, so they'd stop having sex. And if this is the case, it actually does make sense. When you're a young teenage hornball, sex is all you can think about. But eventually, reality bitch slaps you right across the face. And that reality is getting ever harsher, at least from the male perspective. Previously, it wasn't so bad that it turned guys off entirely, but nowadays it's different. Once the hormonal haze is lifted from their eyes, they just look around and see, shit, I've walked into a minefield. I better retrace my steps and get the hell out of here. And before I sign off, yeah, sure, I'm gonna admit, ready access to things like porn definitely contributes to this, because it makes guys much less likely to just throw caution to the wind and sacrifice themselves just to get off, if they could do it a whole lot safer in their own home. But taking porn away is not going to solve the root cause of the problem. All it's going to do is get rid of one of the outlets these guys have that are already avoiding relationships and sex with real women. And as we've seen with every other kind of prohibition, that's just going to lead to way more problems further down the line. That's all I got to say, guys. Thanks for listening.